This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella, and we're very pleased to be joined by one of the greatest legal scholars of all time and President Reagan's Supreme Court nominee, a man who many say should have been a Supreme Court justice and would have been had it been not for one of the most vicious smear campaigns in American history orchestrated by the far left and carried to the floor of the Senate by Ted Kennedy. Robert Bork is a best-selling author. Title of his latest book, A Time to Speak, Selected Writings and Arguments. Welcome back to Newsmax, Judge Bork.
Glad to be with you.
Some would argue that your savaging by the left forever changed the way judges are confirmed. It's not as much about their competence and qualifications anymore, but more about their politics and demographics. Do you agree with that? Any truth to it?
Entirely. That's entirely true. But the Supreme Court has only itself to blame for that. The Supreme Court made itself, starting in the 1950s, into an increasingly political institution. And once you're a political institution with that kind of power, people are going to fight to control the institution any way they can. And in my case, I think what triggered it was a fear that I might vote to overrule Roe against Wade.
All right, we should point out that Supreme Court nominee Sonia Sotomayor was a legal advisor to the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund during the time it actively opposed Judge Bork's Supreme Court nomination. Her statement, sir, that she as a Latina woman could make smarter decisions than a white male, assuming there was a level playing field, should that have been an immediate disqualifier, do you think?
Well, yes, but except for the fact that if we disqualified people for that kind of remark, we'd have to disqualify an awful lot of judges. Because there's a lot of judging that takes place that is really visceral rather than intellectual.
What about her statement that appellate court judges make policy?
Well, in some sense, all judges make policy, because the fact that there's litigation means that this question isn't really settled. And the court has to settle that, which is to choose one policy rather than another. But the question is how you do that. If you do it by doing the best you can with the legal materials at hand, that's fine. If you do it without reference to the legal materials, without reference to the law, that is lawless.
The New Haven firefighters' discrimination case is the latest of 4 Sotomayor rulings to be overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. Her ruling that it was okay to deny white firefighters promotions because they passed the exam while blacks failed it was made via summary judgment, no trial. Was that appropriate, do you think?
No, I don't. It really was a sign of disrespect to the litigants who were asking for justice. They should have had a full hearing and a reasoned opinion written for them, even if they lost. But they didn't get that. And I think the summary judgment, it was less than a page, was hard to excuse.
As a Supreme Court justice, there will be nobody to overturn her rulings now. Is that worrisome to you, sir?
It is indeed. We see that all the time with the Supreme Court. Outrageous decisions. For example, in the conduct of the war, and the Guantanamo detainees. Really decisions that have a very deleterious bearing on our national security and our ability to conduct a war, but there's nobody to back up the Supreme Court. They have now overturned every World War II precedent and to limit executive power, and there's nobody who can stop them.
One of the things Republicans are apparently concerned about is how the Hispanic community would react if they were to mount serious opposition to Sotomayor. A very qualified judge nominated by President Bush to the Appellate Court, Miguel Estrada, was filibustered by Democrats because they know he would be the next Supreme Court nominee. Now, he was Latino too. Why do you think Democrats pretty much skated on that one? Didn't hurt him?
Well, I think it's probably ideological. Probably they're counting on a core of liberal sentiment in the Puerto Rican community to insulate themselves. They claim to be the friends of minorities, and so they're given a lot of slack that other parties aren't.
Republicans play by the rules when it comes to judicial nominees. They don't mount nefarious, baseless smears such as you were subjected to. On the other hand, the Democrats can and will, as evidenced by what the likes of Leahy, Biden, Schumer, Kennedy, Durbin, and the rest of the liberals did, not only to Samuel Alito, but to John Roberts, a man of impeccable credentials. Do you think the Republicans are naive in confirmation proceedings?
I don't know if they're naive or whether they're just timid, but it is quite true that Democrats are willing to engage in furious attacks, often without any basis in fact, and Republicans are not. Now, I don't know whether that's a Republican virtue or Republican timidity, but I think that the Republicans are either going to have to persuade the Democrats to quit that approach to confirmations or themselves take up the same kind of tactics, which would be too bad.
Many gun owners fear the Second Amendment could be in jeopardy. Do you think they have grounds for their apprehension now?
Yes, I do. You know, these hearings are something of a dance. The questioner, if it's a questioner in opposition, asks tough questions. The nominee gives a soft and evasive answer, and assures everybody that fidelity to the law is the only thing that matters. Then, having gotten past that, when they're on the bench, they go back to their prior practice of deciding politically. And I don't think that, I don't take Sotomayor's protestations that she's entirely governed by law seriously. I don't think she is. And I think that the statement she's made and the ruling she's made show that she's not governed entirely by law.
In your opinion, which is the most dangerous ruling from the Supreme Court?
Well, I think it's proven to be Roe against Wade. We have very bitter politics over abortion. And I'm told that I understand it's different in Europe, where the issue is not nearly as explosive or as divisive. The reason being that in Europe, by and large, the issue is decided by vote by legislatures. And each side fights it out, argues, arrives at some kind of a conclusion, a compromise. Then they go home deciding they can try again next year. Here, by contrast, the voters and the political parties are just ruled out of order, told to shut up. And that makes them furious. So that Roe against Wade, whatever else its demerits are, has really embittered our politics in ways that are most unhealthy.
Okay, again, the title of Robert Bork's newest book, A Time to Speak, Selected Writings and Arguments. A superb legal scholar and a great American, Robert Bork. We wish you continued success, sir, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us at Newsmax.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.
Homeland Security advises every family to have an emergency radio. It's essential for severe weather, power failures, even terrorism. Now Newsmax is offering you an emergency radio absolutely free. Just pay shipping and get the radio, plus a free trial subscription to Newsmax magazine. Go online to Newsmax.com to check out the details of this great offer. Get your free emergency radio today. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. Make sure your family is protected. Call now, 800-NEWSMAX.